down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? OTC. Are you down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? OTC. Are you down with OTC? Down with OTC. Down with OTC.
Welcome to the round table. It is Sunday night. Sunday.
One day only on Sunday, Jeff. That's how it works.
That's how it goes.
It's the Monster Car Show, Jeff.
Monster Crypto.
Monster Crypto Show, Jeff.
Monster Crypto Show.
That's what it is. You have Apex 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Boom. We should change the name of the show.
So there's been a lot of things going around the community today. We're going to sort of set the things a little bit straight. We're going to reposition this poll over here, over there, and kind of make sure that everybody's on equal footing. We're going to jump into it.
What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk a little bit about, there's a lot of people talking about Ripple moving to Wyoming. Wyoming. So also we're going to get into some stuff in and around regulation. We'll talk a little bit about some XRP, I believe. I believe we will. Maybe
break
Bitcoin.
On a little bit of Ripple in there.
A little bit of dust of Ripple, sure. And you know what? It gets started right now. Let's do this.
And now, the roundtable with Jeff and Chip on the chain.
All right, we are back. You know what, Chip? The most important thing out of all this, we can talk about digital assets, we can talk about money, but it's food. And if Vlad didn't get his food yet, man, I don't know how he's going to sit through this stream. Tell you what.
You don't want to you want to make sure that you're in a good spot, that you're rested, relaxed, all that kind of stuff, because you want to contribute too. We want to see what kind of like conversations we could escalate and kind of a little bit talk about. But while you're there, drop where you're from, city, country, drop it in there. We like to shout some of those out because we always appreciate everybody coming in, and we're always blown away by people, like Serdan, who's sitting over there in Croatia, or Darcy over in Ireland. It's amazing. You guys are up. It's pretty late there, right, on a Sunday night. So glad for you guys to be with us tonight.
Oh man, that's awesome. And we got John's got his wine. Poot over there has got his scotch.
Yes.
And everybody's got their thing, when they're
Apex has his beer.
Apex got his beer, man. Everybody is set. All set.
Amsterdam's here. You got Scotland.
Lisa all the way from Ireland. Nice.
San Juan, Virginia Beach, London. Phenomenal. WB's in here with some Chinese bamboo. Oklahoma. London, Cork. Yeah, Cork, Ireland, nice. 1 a.m. Man, fantastic. Really love to see that. And
I like Cork. Cork's a cool place.
Yeah, Cebu City in the Philippines, Maynard's there. So, yeah, we're going to talk about some stuff. So, a lot of stuff went on in the crypto community. It's like interesting how word spread. I think I first saw it with James Rule XRP had tweeted something out there. Talked about, I think it was Caitlin Long, or somebody had tweeted about Caitlin Long. And if you know Caitlin Long, there's a good reason Wyoming's doing what they're doing. I mean, she was really one of the big parts of why they have some really crypto-friendly legislation. But also, too, then she ended up moving on Avanti Bank, and then she started her own. They applied for a banking charter, and now they're off to the races, and so she's running that. So it's pretty exciting, but I think we really probably need to dive in a little bit to this and sort of dissect it. Wow, that was a
lot of conversation. For,
Slovenia, Herzegovina, there's there.
What we're gonna dig into.
Wales.
Yeah, so it's Scotland here.
Love Wales too, man.
Man, yeah. You know what? I drove by Wales. Never actually went to visit Wales.
That's my haunted bed and breakfast story in Wales, right across from a cemetery. That was a weird story, and man, I think I told it on one of our. That was a really weird story, but that's for another day. G'day from Brisbane. How are you, man? What's up, Adrian? Next morning, he's in the future. I love talking to people in the future. Romania, fantastic.
Nice. So you brought up Wyoming.
Wyoming, Orc 716 nailed it.
Wyoming. I think one of the things we can start off with from a business perspective, if you're in the crypto space, if you were to look around the United States and say, should I go to New York or should I go to Wyoming? Which is the most crypto friendly? Well, they're polar opposites. New York, not very friendly. Well, not very friendly to business in general anymore. But then you've got Wyoming, which has been, extremely friendly to the crypto space. And we're seeing a lot of kind of these openings, from a regulation perspective to where, we just saw Kraken get the first banking license. And we're seeing a lot of other, things going on over in Wyoming. And Chip, my perspective, if they're going to become crypto friendly from a business perspective, it makes sense to look at Wyoming. Why not? Especially from a tax perspective.
No, that's right. And also, too, I mean, a lot of people who aren't familiar with the United States, there's a lot of corporations that get registered. They do a registration in the state of Delaware. The reason is because it's very friendly with regard to taxes, right? So everybody will register a company in Delaware, but their corporate office, their headquarters may be someplace else in the United States. But if you're running a corporation, that's the place to do it in Delaware. However, Jeff brings up a really good point. If you are running if you're in the crypto space and you want something that's crypto friendly, first of all, you got one of the senators there. It's probably one of the most pro crypto senators, probably at least publicly, had stated that she actually owns Bitcoin, is very pro Bitcoin, but also pro, I would say, the whole digital asset community. And so you got all these amazing factors happening in Wyoming, and the thing about Wyoming is it's a pretty decent sized state, but not a lot of people live there, right? It's a lot of open, while you talk about that, Jeff, I'm going to actually pull the actual how many people live in Wyoming.
Yeah, and while you're working on that, that there is a company, you talk about Delaware, and there's a lot of corporations that are registered in Delaware with their physical address, their corporate address elsewhere, their primary place of doing business. And Ripple Labs happens to be registered in Delaware. And their main office is in San Francisco, as we all know. So, and we're going to dig in a little bit into some of the news that had gone on regarding Wyoming. But I think there's a lot of little intricate details to cover before getting into that. What do you think?
Yeah, there's some. I think we probably have to tear by it, but while we're there, I'm gonna go ahead and show this on screen. Just kind of like a little primer here, just so we can kind of like get people acquainted, because there's a lot of people that live outside of the U.S. here. But here we go. Here's Wyoming right here, right? Now the population of Wyoming is just over 500,000. You're like, wow, 500,000. You know, that's like two big cities someplace else, right? Or bigger. I mean, New York, 9 million people, right? Or it's one city, so it's the whole entire state. And you can see that, you know, population hasn't increased all that much since 1940. Let me get this a little bit bigger on the screen. But you look at this, it's like, when you kind of, you know, you look back here, it's kind of doubled, a little over doubled from 1940. It's not a big population boom, but then you look at Wyoming here, big state, right? And if you look at it like by compared to other states, you know, you can kind of see that, you know, it's bigger than Nebraska, it's bigger than Utah. I mean, it's
got some landmass.
It's got a lot of landmass, and everybody's spread out in Wyoming. But, you know, they figured something out, Jeff, and you kind of touched on this. They said, okay, we'll give Delaware the whole corporation thing, but we are going to jump into crypto big time. So they really kind of took that and they spearheaded that. They started writing regulations. This started going back, I want to say about a year and a half, 2 years ago, to make it really friendly. And how, you know, there's a lot of things that favor companies, you know, blockchain in general. So if you're a blockchain company, that's probably where you want to register. Now, that brings up the other point. So Jeff just said that Ripple Labs, that's the company that we know and love. That's the one that the SEC v. Ripple complaint is against. It's against the corporation, Ripple Labs, right? So what is Wyoming about, Jeff? Let's dig into that. Let's find out exactly what happened in Wyoming and what does that mean in the grand scheme of things.
In the grander scheme of things. So, you know, I think, you know, one area to really focus in on, again, it has to do with, you know, where is it most beneficial to relocate? So there was a little bit of news that came out today. Saw a lot of people talking about and speculating on this big, you know, news item that Ripple Marketing LLC, Ripple Marketing WY for Wyoming LLC, is now registered in Wyoming. And the big speculative perspective of that is that this new entity that was recently registered called Ripple Marketing is going to somehow be
Ripple Markets.
Sorry. Yeah, Ripple Markets. So it's somehow going to be kind of the savior of all. Because somehow that is, you know, but we'll get into that here in a minute. Well, you know, the other point is that they're moving, and this is what was insinuated, you know, in a lot of these conversations, that they're actually going to relocate Ripple Labs, which is registered in Delaware, and now they're changing domicile over to Wyoming, where in fact they registered a new entity called Ripple Markets in Wyoming. And Ripple Labs Inc. is still registered in Delaware. And as we go through it, you could also see that, you know, there's another entity called XRP2, which we'll get into later, that is registered in New York, that is also very instrumental in everything that's going on. And in fact, there's two entities that have been mentioned in the SEC lawsuit. One is Ripple Labs, the other is XRP2. Inc. And we'll get into those a little bit later. But Chip, you brought up, you know, what is so important about Wyoming overall, and we've kind of dug into that a little bit. But here's one of the things that, and there was an article here, Chip, that that they had interviewed Caitlin Long, and Caitlin Long is the CEO of digital bank Avanti Bank and Trust. And it's associated with state legislatures, select committee on blockchain, financial tech, digital innovation. There's a lot of things going on. And she, in this article, said, well, here, you know, other firms like Ripple, they should consider Wyoming. Why? Because it's a state that does not have corporate or franchise tax. And for cryptocurrencies, that also means being exempt from property and sales tax. So if we just want to put it right there on its face, why register a business in Wyoming that's crypto related? That's exactly why.
Exactly why. I think what we ought to do too, and really a lot of the reason that this is so incredibly popular. So Caitlin Long, if you guys remember, she was the co-founder of the Wyoming Blockchain Coalition from 2017 to 2019. A big purveyor of just what Wyoming would later go on to do. She was also a gubernatorial appointee of the Wyoming Blockchain Task Force. That was 2018 to 2019 in Cheyenne. And she ran a hackathon, and then also too the one that really, here she is right here, is the Avanti Financial Group, which she is the CEO. She's also the founder. And again, when it came time to figuring out where Avanti was going to take up shop, well, where would they go other than Wyoming? So that made a lot of sense. And I think it's important in business when we start talking about, where people are going. And, again, with her tweet right here, this is, I think, one of the ones that kind of like set things off. She said, awesome to see crypto. And I think this is all great. She says, all are welcome. The bigger companies started with Kraken. You mentioned that earlier, Jeff. IOHK Media, and then Ripple apparently now too. CEO of another one recently had told her that they were relocating, and Wyoming was one of the two spots they were considered. So a lot of people put two and two together, and they saw the filing and assumed that Ripple was moving there potentially, right? That's kind of what set people off.
Yeah, and I think, and it goes a little bit beyond that, because Ron brings up a great point, because he says the question was that there's a preemptive move is somehow going to be impacting what happens tomorrow. And here's, a point in fact that this was registered back in November.
Yeah,
and
there's
November 2nd of 2020. Now, they could have known it in November that, hey, you know what, there's going to be a lawsuit filed at some point in the near future. I'm not sure if they would know exactly when the SEC was going to decide to file a complaint. Maybe they were preparing, maybe they weren't preparing, or, maybe, as Robert Morris brought up, exactly what I was going to hint at. One of the things that Ripple does, which a lot of other companies do, they register different incorporations in different states for different purposes. So what a lot of people were speculating about today was that somehow this registration in Wyoming, may very well be the savior of whether or not this outcome with the SEC case would deem XRP a security or not a security. And therefore, there's going to be this big move transition from Delaware over to Wyoming. Man, Chip, I don't see it that way. I see it that Ripple Markets, as these guys have been mentioning, really hints more towards a new project. And we're going to go through and see that there's actually quite a few new projects, and there's quite a few trademarks and quite a few patents that have been registered and filed by Ripple for various projects and products. And this is just one more thing. So are they, and this is the big hint, being that Kraken is there with a bank, are they also then beginning that pursuit to set up a bank just like Kraken did?
Yeah,
I don't know, man. That's speculation.
Well, it's speculation, but when you look at what's potential, first of all, they registered a new entity, called Ripple Markets. WY LLC. So they had an idea back in November. They wanted to go somewhere, and that was just filed. That was electronic filing. And the key thing to look at too is we know that this is Ripple because their principal office is 315 Montgomery, the second floor, and this right here is where Ripple's headquarters is located and their mailing address. So that much we do know. But I think this is kind of exciting for a lot of ways. First of all, if you're going to be crypto friendly, you're going to set something up. Where else are you going to go? It makes a lot of sense to go to Wyoming. So this is exciting, but I think might have been a little bit misconstrued with thinking that Ripple, the corporation, is going to move there. They're still, they still have their registration in Delaware, but this is something new because nobody's heard of what Ripple Markets is. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, we don't know. And that's why Apex is saying, wouldn't a Ripple banking charter completely undermine their 2013 current strategy that doesn't make any sense. And that's it. That's the whole point, is that they've set up this brand new entity in Wyoming, as they have in New York for New York purposes, as they do in Delaware, as they have their home office, as they have in Japan, as they have, in other parts of the world. We don't know exactly what's going on with Ripple markets, but we can look and see some of the projects that banking chartering isn't one of the things that they seem to be that they have trademarked or that they filed patents for, but they do have some really interesting patents and they have some really interesting trademarks. And we know that they've been talking about other projects. We know they're talking about decentralized DeFi space. We know that they're looking to expand. They came out and said that they're looking to expand into different areas and different projects. Yeah, so that's go ahead.
Well, Jeff, I just wanted to go ahead and give a big shout out to Vince. 724, 7 plus 2 plus 4 is 13. Huge. Big number out there. And so thanks a lot, Vince. Really appreciate that, man. Really, really, really nice, man. Really sweet, cool. Yeah, no, you're right, Jeff. And it's so funny because any corporation, especially when they're a technology company, they're going to have a lot of trademarks. They're going to file a lot of patents, but that's U.S. based, right? But you can also get patents in Europe. You can also get patents in Australia, right? You can also file for patents over in Asia, depending on which country. And I'm sure now, I think the deeper dive would be, of the patents that they've actually registered inside of the U.S., which one of them or which of those are actually on the global scene, because that only protects them as it relates to the United States. And sure, they're based here, but as we know, 90% of, I think it's either 80 or 90% of all of the business, people buying XRP, and a lot of the businesses are actually outside of the country.
Yeah, hey, I just want to show, Channing is talking about ISO, 20022, also has to do with that flow. There's something going on in the banking space, finance space. So, but that also has related directly back to RippleNet. And just before we go down to this other one, but David Sloan is saying Florida or Wyoming. Man, to me that's a pretty easy question. If you are building in the crypto space, go look at Wyoming. But if not, man, why would you move to Wyoming when you can move to Florida?
Yeah. Also, too, if you guys know the Miami mayor is super crypto friendly, because crypto, he's exploring paying people in Bitcoin, a bunch of other stuff. But also, too, Miami's actually becoming, the same way we had Silicon Valley out there, over just south of north of San Jose and then south of San Francisco. We also have what's starting to become maybe potentially could become some of Mecca over here. There's a warm weather, there's no state tax, a lot of friendly stuff there. And you want to take that one, Jeff?
Yes, this is from Kwa Trong. Really appreciate the support on that one. Thoughts for tomorrow's court date. So tomorrow's the pretrial hearing. We don't know what to expect, really. They're going to go in, and I think we're all in the same boat right now. We're kind of waiting to see what happens. The one thing, actually, I can't attribute it, to my own thought process on this one, but DNI brought this up on his stream early this morning, and he was saying that a lot of he's seen a lot of talk in the Twitter sphere and social media sphere about tomorrow leading to some big boost in the price of XRP. And he said from his perspective, he felt that a lot of people would be disappointed tomorrow, and it's almost like a Coinbase scenario when everyone was waiting for Coinbase to list XRP and nothing happened. But tomorrow, really, it's if we're all surprised and there's some big outcome tomorrow where they come out with a big settlement, which I don't see that happening, but crazier things have happened over the past year. But to me, I think tomorrow's going to go through. We're going to get a little gist of the direction that this is going to be going in. Hopefully we get some report back. Your thoughts, Chip?
Yeah, we talked about, a lot of people want a settlement. I personally don't want a settlement. I don't ever want a settlement. Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson didn't want a settlement. They would have settled back when they had the opportunity last year, and they knew that it was going to end up, the complaint was going to get filed. But here's another perspective on that. What if Jay Clayton. People are basically they want to just crush Jay Clayton's head. They want to like that, right? And I almost don't see it that way. I actually think Jay Clayton did the space a huge favor. Now, you had an incoming administration that's coming in. You have somebody brand new, and you know that the new administration, based on the party, loves regulation. They love to regulate. They love to overregulate. How do we know this? Well, we have history. We know that. So, and if you look at the previous administration, they had a rule: bring a new regulation in, you got to dump 2 other ones, because when everyone's like they want regulations, well, yes, but you want clarity as well. You want regulatory clarity so you know where you stand. You want a clean line of delineation so you know, am I right or which side of the line am I standing on? And when we look at the potential for what could happen, I'm already got the chocolates picked out for Jay Clayton because he did an amazing opportunity. It took 8 years. 8 years. The SEC sat on this, did nothing. Crypto mom. She has the affectionate title of Crypto Mom. I'm yet to wait. Where's the crypto part kicking in? It's not. Okay, and she's a commissioner. She has some pull, but there's a lot of dissension within the organization. Congress, 8 years. What did they do? Nothing. The fastest way to get regulatory clarity is to file this on your way out the door. Why? Because it forces, regardless of what new administration comes in, regardless of who takes over the helm coming into it. Obviously we know Gensler is on tap to become the SEC chairman, right? And you dump that in there, so now they have a very weak case. This is just my opinion only. Jeff thinks it's weak. I think it's weak. It's a lot of flowery stuff in there. And Stuart Adelrod said it best. He's the chief counsel for Ripple. He said, I saw that this is when they filed their first amended complaint. He said, there's a lot of stuff in there. They changed numbers. They changed this. Bottom line is this. Was XRP, was it sold as an investment contract? That's it. To forget about everything else you know about it, that's all we're talking about. And there's some things about Ethereum I think we'll probably jump into a little bit today that might surprise you about, because I got news for you. If you think that XRP is a security, well, guess what else is? Ethereum. Now,
Ethereum, exactly.
It's exact. I mean, and based on 2015, and based on some of the things they did, it looks an awful lot like an initial coin offering. It wasn't called that, but that's what it looks like. It's even worse than that because usually ICOs drop right away, not Ethereum.
That's right. So Ronnie Size, he's saying, damn right, Clayton did us a favor. He bought us more time to accumulate. One of the things that Chip and I were talking about earlier, it really has to do with the timing of this. The timing of Clayton, leaving his position, allowing the suit to be filed. Chip just brought up some really solid points that Congress had 7-8 years to do something. The SEC had 7-8 years to do something. And what did they do in those 7-8 years? And we talked about this the other evening when we were going through the amendment to the complaint. Nothing. The only thing that they alluded to was something back in 2013, where the attorneys of Ripple had some memo that might have, stated there could be some concern that this could be a security. That's it. But the SEC didn't touch it in 13. There were no attorneys around at that period of time that understood cryptocurrency to even give a rational thought process to work through it. So we know that there was a lot of difficulty. The SEC definitely did not understand it, which is something that we brought up. But Ronnie Size here, that Clayton did a favor because maybe Clayton realized, as Chip and I were talking about earlier, that since Congress didn't do anything for 8 years, the SEC didn't do anything for 8 years. Hey, you know what? We know the direction of this thing. I'm leaving tomorrow. Hey, obviously it kind of ramped up the filing. He didn't file it, just put it all together and file the day before. They built their file. And he said, okay, I'm going to put this out there, and the next day I'm out of here. And that's kind of, it's kind of what happened. But did he do a favor? And I think, like Chip's saying, Ripple knew, everybody in the space knows, we need regulatory clarity. But this, and we've addressed this multiple times over, this case has more impact on the space at large, because if XRP is a security, then go back, because so too is ETH, so too is XLM, and so too are many, many of the other digital assets that are out there that will fit a very similar mold.
That's exactly right. So I want to throw this one up. Paul Smith, thank you for that. He says, me and my kitty, Mu E Malaganas, be eating chicken, and it's Chicken Wednesday. The dogs I was at the zoo and happily patted the chimpanzees. I don't know what that means, man, but Paul, thank you for the $5, man. That was a really good one.
He's from New Zealand, so over in New Zealand they
probably
talk a little differently.
Some slang in there that probably we don't know, and he's probably laughing his ass off right now that he just read that, right? He's like, oh my God.
Since you read it out.
He's like, they're just laughing. But look at this right here. So Maynard says, because of the SEC case, I was able to buy XRP at 20 cents, right?
There you go.
And so a lot of people, have a lot of disdain for, Jay Clayton and this and that. But look, yes, it looks like he was resigning, and on the day before he left, it took months, if not years, because of the tolling agreements that go back to April of 2019. That basically lifted the 5 years. They could go back further than 5 years and do all that discovery stuff. So this isn't something he dropped on. This has been ongoing. They obviously couldn't come to some kind of a settlement. I have a feeling that it had to do with the fact that they didn't have any clarity. It's like, okay, let's settle it. Okay. And then they come out of it and, well, what do we do? I mean, if there's no clarity, why would they settle? I mean, yeah, I could pay a fine. You can pay a fine anytime. But I really believe that Ripple has a really amazing case. They've got a way stronger footing, and they can. It'll be interesting to see if their FOIA request, Jeff, produces anything. They had that Freedom of Information Act that they wanted to see the petition. They wanted to get the government to give the SEC any emails, any phone calls, any documentation about exactly how did the SEC arrive at the idea that Ethereum wasn't a security. And so they're going to be arguing this in court pretty heavily. They're going to find out. I think so too.
But let's dig into it. Let's get into your thoughts on Ethereum. And I know you put a bunch of that stuff together. Before we do, I just want to give a shout out to Matt LaRoche. Matt's been on, for a long time. I haven't seen Matt around for a little while, but Matt's jumping in here. I saw a comment from David D as well, but it's kind of flown past. No, it was Dean D. So I thought it was David D, but it was a Dean D. So why are we so impressed with the U.S.? Only about 10% of the XRP market, we have been told. Also in 17, there were approximately 1 million XRP accounts. Now we have approximately 2.5 million. Would love your ideas. I think that's pretty straightforward on that one. We definitely care about what's going on in the entire world. You're 100% right, because the U.S. is only spiting themselves and spiting all the retail investors here in the U.S. if they try to deem XRP as a security in the case. It's going to impact business in the U.S., and all that business is going to go someplace else because, as you brought up, Dean, there's a lot more of the XRP transactions going on all over the world, and it's not just about the U.S. Hence, we get a ton of people also in our streams from all parts of the world, all continents. So it's awesome. So I would kind of agree with that. What do you think, Chip?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's funny how I want to put this up too because I saw this. No. When you go to click on something, it's like it's Mary's right here. Yeah, Morton Howell says Mary Jo White seems to believe it will take some time, but she also came out very vocally and said that she does not believe for any reason that she thinks there's a big misstep going on right here. So there's something there. And then we got Mario Royce says, is it true that Ripple proposed a settlement stating they would continue to sell XRP only to accredited investors? Then the SEC rejected the offer. I think a lot of that is speculation. I haven't heard anything publicly mentioned about that, so it's possible, Mario, but I've not heard anything. Jeff, did you hear anything with regard to that as far as accredited investors?
No, I know that obviously they tried to sit down and come up with a settlement, but no, I have not heard that they made that statement. If they did, then if you're going to accredited investors, then you're also coming out and basically saying that XRP is a security and that can only be sold through accredited investors. I think they would, somehow phrase that kind of a statement, but I don't know. I don't know. I have not heard anything on that account. DNI.
Sorry.
Let me
Sorry,
just
buddy.
let
Sorry,
me just
man.
throw this one up real quick and then get into ETH. But DNI, hey, I was just earlier. I don't know if you're in, but we was talking about some of the thoughts that were brought on your show earlier this morning. And if you guys don't know DNI, go check him out. But he did do an amazing job by streaming for like 8 hours this morning. Now it's like 3 hours, man. He really covered a lot of stuff. He says here, SEC sues Ripple in the U.S. 199 countries ask, what lawsuit? Who's the SEC? And that's pretty straightforward. I think that's spot on. You're
let's
right.
paint the picture here. I want to kind of construct this, sort of paint the picture. We're going to go back to year 2015. This is a really good article that was put together. This is in Decrypt, and it was based on this video right here. It's Nuggets News, and he did an interview, but it was good in the sense that he opened up a lot of stuff. So in late 2015, Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin sold 500,000 Ethereum to Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz. Now, we all know about this. We've all at least heard about this. Over-the-counter transaction, he sold it for 99 cents. Today, that nest egg, they're saying it would be worth $229 million. It's actually more than that. I don't remember when this was written. When was this written? This is back in November. So yeah, it'd certainly be a lot more than that. Let me just, so here's what's I find really fascinating about this is Novogratz talked about, he talked about how he did this. So he went to college. He had a college roommate called Joe Lubin. So you're like, who's Joe Lubin? So Joe Lubin is the founder of Consensus out of New York. So he founded Consensus. He pays him a visit, and Novogratz was inspired because Lubin believed heavily in Ethereum, right? Now, Ethereum really wasn't out at that point, and it was just something that they were sort of looking at. And so it kind of gets even a little bit even crazier because he was going to buy it at 95, but then I guess the price changed. It went up to 99 cents. He had met up with Buterin another time, but I guess they didn't remember the chance meeting. And so then he became like a crypto type of maniac. So he talks about a little bit about, he calls up Dan Moorhead, who he knows is like the CEO of Pantera, asked him to look at it. After 2 weeks, he's like, dude, this is going to change the world for this and all the coolest things I've found. He's like, dude, this is going to change the world. This is Dan Moorhead, right? He's like, dude, this is going to change the world. Now, so we know a little bit about this, right? So all three of them actually went and invested in this thing, and they're like, hey, they invested with the purchase of 30,000 Bitcoin. They started talking about it publicly, and they just a whole bunch of stuff, ensued after that. So I think he sold a lot of this. I think he said he bought like planes or something, some of the Ethereum stash that he did.
So he bought 500,000 in today's dollars. That would be 950 million, or very close to $1 billion.
Yeah, very close to exactly. Can you imagine that, Jeff? That's some insanity right there.
Insane. He invested 500,000.
Yeah, so that's man. I still go crazy with that. There's hang on a second. Let me pull this up. So if we continue the story here, here's where it gets kind of weird. Not weird, but interesting, I would say. So Buterin sets up shop in Switzerland, and he's doing his thing. And then, I wanted to show this tweet right here because Crypto News put this tweet out. It says, Novogratz admitted to buying Ethereum 500,000 from the Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin. Well, not exactly. So Vitalik chimes in and says, it wasn't him personally, it was the Ethereum Foundation, not him as an individual, because I kind of misquoted. It said, like, now Vitalik is like, hooking Mike. No, it wasn't like that. He bought it from the foundation. But he says he's grateful to Novogratz and other early purchasers of the Ethereum Foundation's Ethereum. If it wasn't for them, perhaps the Ethereum Foundation would not have survived financially, and Ethereum would have a harder time growing to where it is today. You see what he's saying right there, Jeff?
Massive. That would have been gone had they not got that investment. That investment was critical at that moment. They were buying a piece of the success in Ethereum, and without it, there would be no survival.
There would be no survival. So so let's go to this. So now, Andrew Nation, what's up, man? Well, I like that picture you put up the other night, man. That was really cool. I commented on it. I said badass. It was one word. Sometimes I don't have much to say. That's all I have to say. Now, this was on Ethereum's blog, the Ethereum Foundation's blog. They talk about launching the Ethereum sale. Now, let's look at the date here, okay? This is July 22nd, 2014. They're talking about launching the sale of the token. You know, thank you to everybody, blah, blah, blah. During the next 6 months, the time has been spent doing this, developing clients, developing the programming language, the Ethereum protocol, blah, blah, blah. A lot of technical stuff on there. And here's what he says right here. Ether will not be usable or transferable until the launch of the Genesis block. So, Jeff, check this out. Until the launch of the Genesis block, July 2014. So this is interesting. You're probably thinking, well, when did the Genesis block actually occur? Well, he says the price of Ether is initially set at a discounted price of 2,000 Ether per Bitcoin. Will stay this way for 14 days, right? He says Ether.
Oh, so wait, they sold it at a discounted price point?
Yeah, Jeff.
Is that what
interesting.
they're saying?
Yeah, where have you heard that
very
before?
Similar.
Where have you heard that
very
before?
Familiar. Very familiar. Yeah.
Ether's a product, not a security or investment offering. Now, just because you say that, I guess it makes it true, right? Because that's what Vitalik is saying in this blog post. He said it's simply a token useful for paying transaction fees or building or purchasing decentralized application services, right?
That's right.
Now, this is key right here. Initially, they were going to block the United States. They were going to block the U.S. from purchasing. They said, hey, we're not blocking the U.S. after all. Yay. So guess what? This offering happened in the United States. He said it's likely that there will be other versions, there will be forks, terms and conditions, annual issuance rates, 2 endowment pools at 90.099x initial quality of Ether sold. We reserve the right to use up to 5,000 Bitcoin from the pre-sale. Pre-sale, Jeff? That sounds an awful lot like an initial coin offering in 2015, 5.5 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's very comparable. Now you're selling, just everything the way the case with the SEC has been building up as we read through it. A lot of similar parallels between how this initial rollout of Ethereum, with XRP. So yeah.
So they published the Exodus address. They said do not send Bitcoin this directly. Transactions are not properly formatted. Blah blah blah. Users are uncomfortable purchasing. You can go to GitHub. The address is of a 3 to 4 cold storage, multi-sig setup. Blah blah blah. Right. So now we're starting to unpack this a little bit. We're looking at July of 2014. They sold ETH from their website. There you go, Reg. So we're looking at July of 2014, and what's interesting is here, let's look at this blog post titled Ethereum Launches, and let's notice the date. This is July 30th, 2015. So what did they do? They sold initially, but the first Genesis block did not happen until July of 2015. We look back at the numbers here. Let's compare these two.
See, that was the pre-sale.
That was the pre-sale. A year before.
A year prior, they had a pre-sale.
So Jeff, what did you actually buy before? They said you're buying early access. The coin isn't going to be out until they actually do the first Genesis block, which on the blockchain they call it the Genesis block because it's the very first block on that chain, right? That they actually record, and that's the beginning of the recording of everything on the blockchain after that.
Yep. So essentially, you're buying into a common enterprise. And that common enterprise is mining an asset that you're going to be able to get your part of the asset that is then mined, and you're buying it at a discounted rate. And the money that was raised is what actually allowed this mining to take place, because without it, there's a good chance that Vitalik would have folded up shop and none of this would have happened.
Right, because he stated that publicly, Jeff. So well said. What happens after that? Well, it's pretty obvious what happens after that. It's like, so now you have all of these things that look very similar, but the SEC came out 2.5 years ago and said Ethereum is not a security. So right. Ripple said, I will counter that, and we will file a FOIA request because we want to know exactly how you arrived at that. How did you give them the green light out of nowhere?
That's right, exactly. Exactly. So Ripple's legal team have demanded that all communication to the SEC and ETH founders be given to them 100%. That was through their FOIA request. That's their Freedom of Information Act, and they asked for everything. Hopefully, they do get it. And it's important because going through this, we're not trying to single out, and we're just kind of digging through whatever information is there. But hey, what's good for one is good for the other, because one of the things that the SEC came out and said was that at some point in Ethereum's past, it was a security. It no longer is. And that was kind of their overall statement. And then it was gone. And then it was as though, everything was okay. So for Ripple to request it, that's definitely key. Apex here saying at the time, 7/22/14, the purchase of the asset in a common enterprise had no value outside of the ETH project. That was at the sole efforts of the Ethereum Foundation. Interesting. Exactly. And so, as others have been bringing up, their legal team, they know, this is Morton brought that up, and, somebody else, John also, their lawyers all know this. And that's where it shipped right from the beginning. Hey, you know what? As we look at this and just put a little bit of business acumen into it, and you kind of analyze all these little moving pieces. And obviously there could be some big surprise from the way the attorneys and the SEC and they all kind of talk their lawyer language and to try to twist and manipulate things. But overall, just on its face, as we look at all of this, man, it just seems it's weak, just really weak, and that's where, maybe Clayton, he spiked that one up, he's waiting for the,
that's exactly right. But look at this. So let's jump back to the blog post. This one came out on July 30th. A few minutes ago, many of you generated and loaded the Ethereum Genesis block, marking the inception of what they called Frontier back then, of the first live release of the Ethereum project. He also goes on to say that it's great to see the progress take place since their humble first commit on Christmas Eve of 2013. So you go to 2013, you go to 2014, a year later. So they pre-sold something that didn't even exist yet, right? And came out really a year later, and it came out on July 30th, 2015. That's actually a little over a year. It's incredible when you start unpacking this thing. So this is what now I'm thinking that this is what the attorneys are really going to look at. The attorneys are going to spend some time. This is one of the reasons you can see as soon as they had that FOIA request, Jeff and I started digging around like, okay, but that's their plan of attack, because how are you going to say that you basically arrived at a scenario where this wasn't, but it has all the markings, pre-selling something, investment contract, right? The Genesis block wasn't even mined at the time. It's incredible when you start looking back through this. And again, Jeff, he's spot on here. We're not trying to single something out. We're not saying we don't like Ethereum. Look, we love digital assets. But the point we're trying to make here is that if you were going to be that arrogant to say Bitcoin, because maybe Bitcoin mining pools, it's kind of shady there, could potentially maybe be a security. Maybe the Lightning chain, because it goes through a series of individuals. There's a lot of different ways you could unpack it, but they specifically said Ethereum. Nope, not a security. Ripple wants to know why. And when they start digging down in this thing and they start looking through it, this is what's really great, because they don't even have a leg to stand on, Jeff. They're going to go in there and they're going to say, well, explain this then. And they're going to go through it in court. They're going to, like they said, this is all the things that happened. This is what we did. That's what they did. Ultimately, what it comes down to is one thing only. It was an investment contract. At the time, and this is important to say at the time, because at the time when Ethereum, when they pre-sold the coin, Mike Novogratz basically saved the Stellar Foundation's what?
Ethereum.
You know what I'm saying? He saved
Ethereum. The Ethereum Foundation.
Ethereum Foundation. He saved their what? But it saved the whole project itself was saved by Novogratz.
100%. Yeah, it's so meaningful. You think about all of this, and like you said, there's only one point that has to be made. All that other stuff that we went through in the complaint, there's so much fluff over there. It's amazing how much noise they put into their case, because all that other stuff has no relevance if the one point, whether or not XRP is a security, is disproven. So if it's not a security, all that other nonsense is just nonsense. If they can prove that it's a security, hey, then go with all your other claims and say that now that it's a security, hey, you guys sold an unregistered security. However, how do you still then explain your silence for 7 or 8 years? How do you explain their silence when they allowed and gave permission for the sale of XRP to MoneyGram and that whole transaction? And how do they explain their silence so far on declaring whether or not Ethereum at the time was a security, and now it no longer is? So I think there's a lot of questions there. But hey, before we go on, some clarification here, or it's not really clarification, but it's something we're talking about earlier on. So Jungle Inc. chimed in as well, and it's kind of right on the same track with what we were talking about as well. But Ripple is still in Delaware, which is Ripple Labs. Only Ripple Markets LLC is in Wyoming. Some activity that they want to move outside of their normal operations, similar to XRP2 LLC, which is registered in New York. So again, this is, it seems like there's a lot of social media noise to about nothing. So
a lot about nothing. But even some of the articles also noted that too. And then we start talking about, it's interesting too, because there's two former chairs. One of them actually penned a letter and said, hey man, I don't think this is the right way to go. But Mary Jo White also sat down with Fortune, and she pointed out the problems with the whole case as well. So if you don't think they're going to leverage that as well, see, it doesn't bode. You have pretty much every country who's moved on, who's basically said they don't even have anything on their side. And be like, well, what about this country? And it'd be like, they can make up a country. Like, what about Jabba Zaba? And they're like, where's that? I don't know. We made it up. But they said it was a security. Like, that doesn't exist. There's no country out there that exists that would actually call it a security, Jeff. So they're going to have a lot of tough arguments here.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Tomorrow's the day, and Moto Yoda here is saying it's already the 22nd where he's at. So he's coming to us from the future, but apparently in his future, Ripple and the SEC still have not met in their pre-trial conference. So
yeah, I'm going to listen in that conference.
Wait till our future.
I'll probably be bored out of my mind listening in that conference. But a pre-trial conference is like talking about how it's going to go, setting stuff up. It's not really, outside of that, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, people are expecting something to come out of this. I don't expect anything to come out of this. Maybe setting some court dates. They've already set some of the preliminaries. And that joint letter that they both filed, it was like 7 or 8 pages. So both entities came together and they started figuring stuff out, right? So we heard that they wanted to do more depositions. We also heard that, actually the SEC wanted to do more depositions. They set a date going out to August as far as discovery was concerned. So everyone said, oh my God, no, not August. Well, that's a deadline. Doesn't necessarily mean that's when it's going to be.
That's it, exactly. So Jungle followed up, hey, they were all securities day one. It's too late to go unwind the past, make rules for new projects, and move on. And that's exactly what it is. Give us some regulatory clarity. Let's all agree that, at the beginning, all of these different projects could very well have been securities, but that's not the point anymore. Let's get beyond it, because 7, 8 years you sit in silence, do nothing, and you give Congress a chance to do something, they do nothing. And it's, it comes down to, really one thing. Neither of them really understand what's going on in the space, and they keep trying to, apply their different ideas. But at the end of the day, Chip, the SEC pretty much just ignored it, for 7, 8 years. So
yeah, but I also kind of think that maybe it's kind of like one hand thought the other hand was going to do something. Congress is thinking the SEC will chime in, but Congress really, quite honestly, really should have been the one leading. And again, there's so many opportunities, but they were getting into nonsense. And when you look at, when the internet was going, the internet just floated up, and you had both sides of the aisle working on it, understanding the importance of what the internet could potentially be. And yes, it was, a lot of that stuff happened in the U.S., but it was a global phenomenon, right? But they also knew that taxing it, there's a time where you could buy a lot of the goods online through the internet and you weren't taxed. Well, then, that's not going to last forever, because because the government always gets paid. So then it became like some states here and there, did stuff. Bottom line was they voted multiple administrations, both sides. You had Democrats, Republicans. When it came time, I think a lot of what government officials have lost track of, because they're trying to figure out how they line their pockets with fiat currency that's losing value, or Bitcoin, or whatever it might be. I always wonder when they talk about, Bitcoin, Jeff, they're always going like, well, it has been used for nefarious purposes. And I'm like, well, politicians aren't really like in a good mindset to be speaking about nefarious, scenarios. They're not exactly the most trustworthy humans on the planet. You know what I mean?
No, unfortunately, no.
Stalemate. It was like a lot. No. So I want to go into this because this is where I think people took a left turn. Ripple now registered as a Wyoming business. Okay, and then he talks about the Caitlin Long thing, but this is the key thing. It says blockchain-based payments firm Ripple Labs has now registered a business. You see, like that's the key thing, and that's what we talked about early on in the video, and what Jungle brought up, as well as you can take a little bit of a sidestep, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, Ripple's moving to Wyoming. No, that's Ripple Markets, YW LLC, and that itself, it'll be interesting. A lot of speculation. What are they doing? Is it going to be a banking charter? Are they going to be setting up some kind of a potential bank? Is it going to be a vehicle for something else? Is it going to be something in the DeFi space, or whatever it is? That Ripple, if you look at their patents and all the things, Jeff, didn't you have their patents somewhere here? Didn't you have a?
Yeah, one of the tabs we actually have a list. If you go to the open corporates, no, not that one. You go to the Ripple Labs Inc. in the Delaware, you'll find that one. So if you have that tab open,
I think so. Yeah.
Scrolling down, you'll go to the different documents, but you can see their trademark filings. And then you can scroll under the trademark filings and you go to their patent activity under Ripple Labs. And remember, the key point here is that Ripple Labs is registered in Delaware. XRP2 is registered in New York. And like Jungle was saying, and we were saying, and others have said, when you're in this, they're going to set up their business in different areas according to potentially what their needs are. And that's it, and this is, you can see this list. It's really impressive to see what they've done. Some of these patents that they've been working on that have been filing and are finally kind of coming to fruition at this point. Man, really, really impressive to see.
Yeah, and look right here. I mean, a couple weeks back, this was filed on January 26th of 2021. And this is it here. This is they filed network computing system implementing on-demand liquidity for cross-medium transaction services. And if you can see this, wow, that's a lot. You always got to provide documents, diagrams and stuff, everything you do. But this is the diagram itself. When you're on a patent, there's a lot of gobbledygook, but it basically explains everything. And this always kills me. This is why you have attorneys that specialize just in putting patents together. But look at this. This is all the text that goes with all those figures there. It's insane, right? It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And then you get down to the diagrams. Holy cow! There you go. This basically shows exactly how it works. And let's see. There you go. Transaction system network. This is happening in user blah 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 blah. So that's what you see when you go to a patent. But you look at all these things. There's your related SEC filings. A lot of stuff on here, man. There's a lot of stuff to unpack here. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I like looking at some of their trademarks, Chip. They have PayString that was recently filed in November, and then in August of 2020, you have Ripple Impact, which has to do with a lot of the charitable work they're doing. And you just kind of dig in. They're solidifying their spot. It's smart. What they're doing with both the patents and these trademarks. Obviously, stuff that they need to do. You can go in here and see some of the documents. From December of this past 2020, you can see some of the acquisition statements that were amended, the acquisitions with MoneyGram, and you can dig in. I mean, this stuff is public record. It's out there, so you can search it. That's the good thing about it. It doesn't take that much. Everybody can get a good idea of what's happening. As you did. We pulled up and we looked at what Ethereum was doing. We just want to workshop and really go through and try to get a good understanding of it. And I think we did a pretty good job today, and we really dug in and saw some stuff. Want to give a quick shout out to Alex. Vlogs, what is going on?
Alex D, and also want to give a shout out to Jungle. Jungle, always great to have you in here, man. Sharing your opinion. It's always fantastic having you in here, and we'll have to get you back on the roundtable, man. Love to have you back on the roundtable. I know you've been pretty busy at the moment, so we'll figure out to when you can sort of free up a little bit, which we'll do that. And so, as always, Jeff, we always tell people the best way to help out the channel is to share it with people. Share it with friends, neighbors. It doesn't matter who you share it with. Live in Wyoming, and I'm an XRP bull. Well, that's awesome, James Douglas. That is awesome stuff. So, and when it comes to XRP, Jeff, not 100% sure,
but
think it's magic. There you go. Subscribe,
Magic.
click that bell, and smash that thumbs up, man. We had a really good, a nice crowd in here tonight. You guys are, again, some of the smartest people in this community or any community, so it's always great when you guys come in and workshop it with us. And I just really want to thank you for, stopping in here, spending a little bit of time, whether it's morning for you, whether it's the middle of the night, when we have Europe joining us, or you're in the future and you're, from New Zealand or Australia or Japan or wherever you may be. Jeff.
Man, yeah, I just appreciate everybody being in here. You guys are awesome. There's definitely a lot going on every single day in this space. Tomorrow, hopefully we get some really interesting information to dissect and talk about as it has to do with the pretrial conference and get in and talk more about that. Like Chip said, hey, there's a lot of, I'm sure there's some new people in here tonight. If you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. And when you hit the subscribe button, there's this little bell. And if you hit the bell notifier, what that does is notify you every time we post a new video. I know we're redundant and repetitive on that, but if you haven't done that, do it. Those types of things actually help the algorithms within the channel. And if you give a thumbs up, we appreciate that too. And definitely leave some comments below, because you'll be amazed. Every one of these videos keeps living, for days as people are commenting on them. So really awesome that you guys decide to spend your Sunday evening with us, your Sunday late night with us, your Monday early morning with us. You guys are awesome. And we're going to be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, exclusively
on the chain. We'll see you on the next one.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.